and then it's like I played Far Cry 5, and I was like,
nah, I'm the same way. I'm the exact same way. It was 5. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was because we're in America and we're facing like these bumpkins from up north, and I'm like, it was a cult kind of vibe, and I'm like, I'm not really feeling this, but. Welcome to the Single Player Experience. As always, I'm your host, Sebastian Mauldin, and joining me today is a video game developer. He is a PC gaming savant. He is a website developer. He is the person who was equipped with only a single pistol and a stern willpower and defeated the Covenant, the Flood, and the Monitor to save the human race. He saved the land of Tamarel from a demon invasion. This man is a monster. I have it on good authority. A monster on the tennis court. He is a Star Trek aficionado. He is the Destiny Conqueror himself, Alec Taub. Alec, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, man?
Man, I'm doing fine. I'm doing wonderful. Glad to have you back on, man. It's been a while, so I wanted to get us a read on how your 2024 has been so far.
It's been interesting. I mean, just alongside, I guess, the gaming chaos that we're experiencing in the market this year, it's been the same. I mean, started a new job, and the new job is crazy, and getting through all the traveling and the struggles of the new job, as well as trying to build a game and do everything that we can, as well as enjoy gaming as much as I can. It's been a wild year.
It really has. It really has. So on the gaming side of the fence, 2023 was a stacked year. I call it the best year of video game releases of all time, but like 2024 hasn't quite been to that same level, but we still have gotten a lot of exciting stuff. Like, do you prefer the releases of last year over this year, or this year over last year?
Oof. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I definitely last year in terms of quality of games, I think was wider. I think there was more variety. So like just in terms of the games that came out last year in comparison to this year, we've had good games this year. Obviously, Elden Ring came out. And, the Helldivers absolutely took over the world and got me sucked into it. I mean, there have been good games this year, but I think last year had better breadth, better variety, more market share for everybody to sort of hop in and find a game that was, sort of their thing.
Yeah, something for everyone. This year has kind of felt like, at least in my viewpoint, it kind of feels more, Japanese centric, of like the style of storytelling there, where you have more JRPGs, RPGs, and everything in between that are very much almost anime style of storytelling. And I feel like that's such an acquired taste that for the people who love that, they are feasting this year. But they really are. They are absolutely feasting this year, because I'm like, they got like Final Fantasy 7 Part 2. Let's see, Blue Fantasy came out. Persona 3 remake came out. Tekken, I would consider in that class as well. Stellar Blade is basically anime. Well, at least it feels very anime-ish. So I'm like, there was, and I know I'm missing some. So there was like a wide, like a Dragon Ishin was another one that's very anime style. But yeah, it was like a wide variety, but there's the same style of story. So I feel like you're very spot on of like last year feeling like almost like everybody got something to feast on last year.
Oh yeah, and it felt like every platform had a little bit of everything. I mean, you had Breath of the Wild, right? Wasn't that last year? Yeah. I mean, that was a huge
Tears of
one
the Kingdom.
Switch. Yeah, Tears of the Kingdom. God, I'm trying to think of some of the other games that came out there, but the 6 o'clock brain is kicking in. But yeah, it just felt like last year there was such variety across the board. That there was something, and it seemed like there was like a new massive game that would come out that was like genre defining every month.
Every single month.
Yeah, and it felt like it was just a constant, like, you would get really excited for one release and you'd play it for, a week or two, and then you get ultimately excited for another release that would come out like immediately after. So it was terrible for our wallets, but I mean, great for the enjoyment levels. So
absolutely. So everyone, it's like the second day of Amazon Prime Day when we're recording. So I wanna ask Alec, specifically because Prime's been on my mind today. Have you found any good deals today, like especially in the gaming sector?
No, I haven't. I haven't been looking all that much, especially with gaming, because the backlog. I mean,
So
as I
deep.
think every gamer knows right now, the backlog is so deep, and especially we just had the Steam summer sale.
Hmm.
And we got a couple other games. I know on Friday, it should be Friday. Yeah, we have the new college football. The NCAA 25 is coming
Yeah.
out. The return of some good, hopefully the return of a good sports game.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, we have the new FIFA on the horizon, but then there's the discussions about how that might be free to play now based off of some leaks that were coming out. So that's kind of exciting. And then everything that's been going on with Destiny. I mean, yeah, the wallet is dry.
I feel you on that. I feel you on that. I've been playing college football. I actually really enjoy it this year. It's like
Okay.
it
I was gonna
feel
ask. I'm like, is this a Madden reskin or is this actually something to look forward to?
it. So one of my initial impressions of it is like Madden feels. Okay, so Madden has felt the same way for 10 years for me, for the
Yeah.
most part. Mine, like some minutia here and there, but for the most part, it's felt the same.
Yeah.
NCAA, it does have some Madden isms to it, but then it
Hmm.
feels like it is. You ever go to a YouTube video and you see that like the speed like option, and you can
Hmm.
just crank that bad boy up? It feels like it's times 4 on the speed meter. So it feels
Okay.
like it already has like a energy to it, and then the
Hmm.
fact that the crowd gets involved differently. The tackle mechanics are a lot more zippy and punchy. The hit
Hmm.
stick feels not quite NFL blitz level, but very kind of closer to that than
Ah.
Madden does at the point. So
Hmm.
you can hit a little harder. It feels like there is still a couple of rough patches, but for the most part,
Hmm.
it feels like a lot of the complaints that we had over the years of Madden have kind of been addressed with college football.
Interesting.
It doesn't feel like it's actively trying immediately to just microtransaction you to death as well. So I'm like,
Hmm.
it it feels like there's a huge emphasis, maybe because this is the first one in 10 years, on like the dynasty career aspect of it, like the
Hmm.
actual like you picking a college and rebuilding that college from the ground up. And I love
Hmm.
that. That's like I love my sports sim brain goes crazy for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, so for me, I'm like, it's not quite the dream come true, but it is like, oh, this is something I've been looking forward to for like 10 years, and
Hmm.
I didn't think was ever possible again, so I'm enjoying it immensely right now.
Fair. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's what I've been wanting to hear because I was just having this conversation with one of my friends. It was like since the addition of Ultimate Team and
Hmm.
that huge push that's come across both Madden and FIFA and now NHL, it because so much of the focus feels like it's on that, it feels like a lot of these other aspects are the things that I look forward to, especially from a single player experience
Yeah.
viewpoint. When I look at something like career mode, just the quality in career mode has felt so lax. It has
Hmm.
felt so low the last couple of years. So that makes me really happy to hear that because there isn't such a focus on the ultimate team side of things, that there's more of a renewed focus on the career mode stuff.
Yeah, Road to the Glory is like their career mode in this game, and it's
Hmm.
well done. You can also choose between like whether or not you want to be like a hot upstart prospect, like a huge star right out of the gate, or if you wanted to
Hmm.
be like a grinder, someone who's like not on mini scouts level, so but like a almost like a walk on, and you could choose
Ah.
between, and you could choose. They have like three other choices in between that you can
Hmm.
choose between to like as a good starting on point, and then you have to manage like your weekly schedule, your GPA, your image, yeah, yeah, for real. I was just like, if and like you can use the transfer portal and such like that to kind of like
Hmm.
maneuver your way from college to college. I think
Wow.
so. I think there's a little details in there that feel more authentic versus like the Madden career mode, where it's almost like the Madden career mode has been garbage, like absolutely
Yeah, I was
garbage.
about to say, I'm like, are we really going to call it a career mode? Because it's
Yeah.
it's really just you show up, you play a game, and then you get some really garbage cutscene, and then
That's
you go
exactly
and
what
play
it
the
is.
next
Exactly
one.
what it is. That's exactly what it is. This one feels a little more thought out, and I do like the dynasty mode where you are actually picking a college and like so like you can pick a small, small like minor school, or you can pick a major like powerhouse, and you are trying to actively recruit kids to your program and such like that. So I do think there's more thought provoking material in this versus Madden, and I do think this. I want to see the comparisons of this versus all the other sports games this year, because I think like this feels more user and player focused versus a lot of the other ones that feel more microtransaction focused.
Oh yeah, I mean that has been a big gripe of mine, is that as a former massive FIFA enjoyer, I mean, career mode was everything to me, and being a manager and, used to take the teams from the bottom of the English football tier system and take them all the way, and, try to get to Champions League and do all that great stuff. And it was fun for a number of years. And of course, as features get removed and gameplay deteriorates and the whole experience slowly got worse and worse and worse, I was like, I really don't enjoy this anymore.
I can understand that completely. I get that sentiment. Since you were a FIFA guy, like, did you hear the news about like the Argentina and Colombia match that went on at Miami Stadium?
Yeah.
That was crazy, right?
Yeah. Copa America is always crazy, especially from, I think, people who watch from the outside view or watch Euros. You watch Euros, and I mean, Euros is somewhat hectic in its own right, but yeah, South American football is an entirely different level of passion and fandom. And I saw the images that came out, because I believe it was at the Hard Rock Stadium, and like they destroyed escalators,
and like there was glass that was shattered. I mean, yeah, they completely went off on this stadium, and I'm like, first of all, I'm a sports fan, but soccer is not necessarily my main go-to sport that I follow. So I'm like, I'm always on the outside looking in, except for World Cup season. So I'm like, I did not expect it to be this rowdy, this rambunctious, and basically tear down the Dolphin Stadium like this.
Yeah, I mean, both I think I'm trying to remember if I remember this correctly, because I'm not as familiar with South American football, but with Argentinians Pro League, that's supposed to be like the big deal down there. I believe it's the Boca Juniors, and I'll probably get hate mail for getting either the wrong team and wrong league. But like, when you have some of those big derby clashes down there, I mean, it's intense stuff. I mean, they almost burn stadiums down with all those flares, and
that is crazy.
It's a different level of football.
That's crazy. I love the fandom though, but it's like I saw people like in some of the videos like sneaking through vents and such like that to get into the stadium, climbing over fences. I was like, this is a madhouse, man.
Yeah, I saw that too. I was like, oh my god.
That is absolutely crazy. So, Alec, I want to pivot back to games for a second. You kind of gave me a hint of what you've been playing this year, but I really want to dive into it further.
Yeah.
Like, you say you were playing Helldivers. What else have you been playing this year?
So I got talked into Helldivers because of all the hype that was around it, and so for Liberty, we played it for a while, and it was a ton of fun. With the Fallout TV show that came out, I had a huge hankering for Fallout 76 and doing an Idiot Savant playthrough, so I was doing that for a bit, and that was also good fun. But it's been a very interesting 4 or 5 months for Bungie and Destiny, and we've been sort of riding the roller coaster of the last year with them. So that has it still continues to be the number one game that I keep coming back to most of the time.
So, Destiny has had you in the chokehold for a decade at this point, right?
Well, so I'm late to the party. So that's where the interesting part for me was, it's always really funny because I think I'm over like 4,000 hours at this point or something.
Jeez.
And that's been clocked in the last 2 years.
Okay.
And it's funny when I talk to my clan mates, because they'll be like, oh yeah, I started, during the beta D1 and blah, blah, blah. Or, I started playing day one of the Red War. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, yeah,
I picked up Destiny veterans out there.
I picked up my copy at GameStop for like $5, and I hopped in 2016 for like 2 hours, and was like, I don't get it. So then I did it again in 2021, and it was like, oh, free to play, and I played it again for 2 hours, and was like, I don't get it. They were like, what?
So what was the hook there? What was the thing that got you in? What was like the dopamine shot? You were like, I can't get enough of this.
Yeah, it started off as, so I had a friend who was in the military, and he was deployed in the Philippines, and he was like, hey, I want to play games because I don't really have anything to do here in the evenings or on the weekends. It was like, okay. So we were looking for free-to-play games. We downloaded Destiny, and we just started playing and leveling and doing the Vanguard strikes and doing Dares of Eternity, and then it just sort of went off the rails where it was the number one thing I'd look forward to every week. And then I was like, wait, I don't just have to play this on the weekends. I can play this whenever I want. It just sort of escalated from there to the point where it's like, yeah, it's as soon as I'm off work and if I don't have any responsibilities, okay, I'm gonna hop on Destiny until I go to bed.
So what was it? What was that push and pull like between like Helldivers 2 for you and Destiny? Like Destiny was like your tried and true. I was like, how do you balance that? You know,
it's hard. If it wasn't because I had friends who were really adamant about wanting to play it, I probably wouldn't have hopped off and hopped on with them. But that, and I mean, the one thing and that's really incredible about Helldivers, and I think it goes beyond the gameplay, is it's almost like Helldivers aura. Like it's such a community driven experience, and the game like drives you to want to be a part of it and like to want to buy into the insanity of us all going for liberty and running around going for democracy and buying into the whole memes of it. And it's fun to sort of shut off your brain and just hop in there and buy into the sheer insanity of the Helldivers experience. So that was a big thing for me. And then it helped that, Destiny had its DLC delayed by 3 months, 4 months, and had some issues where it was pretty quiet in early January and February. It was like sort of the perfect time for Helldivers to take over for a little bit.
So you told me about your favorite games, like through messaging and such like that, about your favorite games of all time. Well, two of which are very single player focused games, with being Halo 3 and Elder Scrolls Oblivion. Oblivion is, by the way, my favorite Elder Scrolls of all time as well. But like, I'm an Oblivion guy. But like, I'm wondering, what is the thing that really got you into the community aspect of gaming? Like, was it Destiny? Was it like, have you always wanted a sense of community in games, or have you been more of a single player focused gamer?
I think so, because a lot of the games that I played up until, I want to say, Battlefield 5 were usually single player driven. I mean, even the games that weren't, so something like, Nazi Zombies on Black Ops, it was still like I'm playing it with my friends. I wasn't going out and finding communities or trying to find people to play with. I was just playing it, with them, or I wouldn't play it at all. And would end up playing these other single player driven games. Or if it was a multiplayer game, I'd find bots. So like Counter-Strike, Source had bots, and it was a great way to, just play rounds, just play against the bots. I think at first it grew out of necessity. So, while I was playing with my friends, eventually he had to come home. So his interest in Destiny sort of dropped after that, because, he went back to everyday life, and then other games came out and he sort of moved on. And then I had other friends who sort of moved on from it. So it was just me. And I was sort of left with this like insatiable hunger to want to keep playing. And I had one friend who was still playing at the time, and he was like, well, why don't you join my clan? And it turns out the clan was like 100 people, and it was a really big clan, really active community. North Star is kind of known within the Destiny social sphere as a really good, end game clan. And so I was like, oh, okay. And they started teaching me how to play dungeons and started teaching me how to do raids. And a lot of the PvE content that I really, really, really wanted to play sort of became the focus. Now it's sort of shifted where the PvP content is definitely my focus. But that one has also been more of a solo experience as opposed to playing with other people. But
how so?
Yeah.
Like, as a
Just
person not
yeah.
in Destiny, I'm curious.
I think my part of it is because of the clan that I'm with. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they are very PvE centric, and I've developed such great and such strong friendships with so many people within that clan. I
Okay.
just don't see myself ever leaving. But they're not PvP people. Like, I'll put up PvP events, and if people show up, it's always a bonus. But I'm like, I generally expect to go into these events alone. If people show up, they show up, but generally they don't. And that's totally fine. I kind of recognize that. I just recently started joining some like Discord communities to try to get out of having to be a solo player, but Bungie has done a really, really good job in PvP. Well, up until this DLC launch, but that's a different discussion. They've done a really good job of establishing that as a solo player, you always have that route. So
Yeah.
one of the end game PvP modes is something called Trials of Osiris. It's a really competitive environment where, it's famous for a lot of streamers. Like, they'll tag team together and run duos or trios, and the goal is to get to the lighthouse. You got to win 7 wins, or you got to get to 7 wins on your card and go through that whole process. But they sort of added a solo player queue to it, where if you don't have people to play with, you can hop into that experience solo. And with that matchmaking, you'll generally face other solos. Sometimes you'll face like 2 stacks and things like that, but you're never put in a position to where it's like, okay, it's a group of solos going against like a 3 stack, or a really well coordinated team. So they've done a really good job of keeping the experience solo really good. I find like matchmaking times are easier because it's easier for Bungie to sort of fit you into matches with other solo players, or say it's a 5 versus a 6 stack, they can sort of fit you into that 5 stack to get you into matches quicker. Plus, I mean, I play to such a disgusting degree that I don't think a lot of folks are down to hop into just the sheer amount of PvP. Like, we just had one of the rotating seasonal PvP experiences is called Iron Banner, and it brings its own specific PvP modes, and it's got its own loot pool and things like that. But it's like, I had one Saturday where I had nothing going on, so I just played it. I got on at like 10 a.m. and I didn't hop off until 10 or 11 p.m. It was like I played like 63 matches.
Yay!
and like people would come, like I set up an event, so like there were people there, like they'd hop in, they'd play a couple games, they'd leave, they go, run errands or something, they'd come back later. And it was like, for me it was great because it's like I could keep playing, and I can always keep playing, and as a solo player there's always somewhere to go with it, which is what I've really enjoyed. Plus, to a degree, there's also a sense of pride in it. It's one of the things is I'm trying to climb up the comp ladder, and I'm trying to get to the max rank, and it's like, okay, if I can do that as a solo player, then I know I've sort of made it in the PvP realm as a top tier PvP player, as opposed to maybe, some people do get carried there. I'm not going to say that they don't. And it's like, I'd like to earn it on my own and get to that point. So there's definitely some cool aspects to it being a solo player.
So I gotta ask, because I'm curious, and the latest expansion is supposed to be Destiny 2's last expansion, right? Or is there more coming?
It's complicated.
Okay. So like most things Destiny related when it comes to expansions, it's complicated?
Yes. So a lot of people, I should say it's very split. There's definitely people that thought that this was it. And the reason that they thought that this was it is because, to a degree, it is. So this is the end of the Light and Dark saga, which has been going on since Destiny 1, and has been sort of the main focus of the story of the Traveler, who's the big ball thing that provides all the Guardians their powers and their ghosts. And so all the powers of the light are going up against this guy named the Witness, who is like the leader of the darkness, and he's got the Pyramid Fleet. And they've been clashing since the beginning of time, essentially. And that conclusion happened in this expansion. So it's been interesting because Bungie, like, they have 2 products. They have Destiny and they have Marathon, except Marathon hasn't even come out yet. So they just have Destiny, which Sony bought Bungie for like $3 million or something. And that's all Bungie's got. So you had all these people that would crack me up because they're like, "That's it, Destiny's over," and I'm like, "This is their only product." Like,
Yeah.
Destiny's not over. If there's no Destiny, there's no income. They can't go anywhere. So, it, ultimately, it almost feels like Destiny is one of those things where it's they're, whether Bungie wants to do it or not, from all inclinations, they seem extremely invested in Destiny. But whether they, want to be invested or not doesn't matter. They're just kind of stuck with it because it's such a cash cow that it's like, we were talking about the game back in January or February when it was in its downtime between DLCs and in between. Bungie ended up adding something called Into the Light, which is supposed to hold people over until the new expansion. They brought back some exotic missions. They added a new game mode that was really awesome. They introduced a bunch of new weapons. And you had a lot of people that were like, "Oh, it's a dead game. Oh, blah blah blah." It's like they still have 40,000 players a day. Like,
Yeah, let's pump the brakes on the word dead.
Yeah. So it's always kind of cracked me up because the outside perspective, or I think the other perspective, and I joke about this with my friends, is like the people that play the game that go, "Oh, this is it." I'm like, they have like actively said in press conferences that they're like, "Oh, this isn't it. There's more Destiny in the future. We're making more." And they just go, "No, this is it." And I'm like, well, this might be it for you, but for the rest of us, we're all going to keep going. So
I feel you. So let's see. So I pulled up an article right here. It's the games Bungie are working on. So they're working on Marathon, and then they announced that they're working on a new IP called Matter. Have you heard of this one?
I think I've heard of it, but I haven't heard much in terms of details because I think they announced that earlier this year or late last year.
Yeah, I believe it's earlier this year. That right now it's projected for 2025, but no hard date. So I'm like, could easily slip into 2026. So a lot of room for Destiny in the meanwhile,
Yeah, I mean, we know that there's another confirmed expansion, and that of course we've gone through a huge transformation over the last 6 months that has just like forever changed the Destiny landscape. So we know that the new expansion code name is Frontiers. And the working theory among people right now is there's a ship that's sort of adrift in space right now in our solar system called the Dreadnought. And it was brought to our system by a guy named Oryx. He was the king of the Hive. And we killed him, and we've been fighting the Hive ever since, but we've been fighting his like sisters and things. But the Dreadnought is there, and it can they brought it from outside our solar system here. So we know that the final season or the final episode is us getting onto the Dreadnought as an explorable space. So we're like, okay, we're kind of connecting the dots of being like, I think we're going to take the Dreadnought out of the system and maybe explore some storylines along with some of the alien races that are currently in the system. So we might be going to their planets and doing stuff there. There's a lot of discussion, especially because we just had the new subclass that was announced that's called Prismatic. And Prismatic is a big deal because it's not like Destiny has been very linear. So if you roll a class, you're either a Titan, a Warlock, or a Hunter. There's subclasses involved with that. So you can either be, you use lightning and stuff, your arc. And if you use, the power of flame, that's all solar. But like you could always swap between them. Well, with Prismatic, they combined it all. So they were like, okay, we're going to take some stuff from Void. We're going to take some stuff from Solar. We're going to take some stuff from Strand and Stasis. We're going to make it all one subclass, and you can sort of pick and choose all the different elements that you want into your build. And now that has caused people to be like, okay, with Destiny 3, they're going to push to where there's no more subclasses and all these exotic things you can combine and blah. So we're in a very interesting space at the moment where a lot is unknown, which has been good, though. I think a lot of people who have been on this journey since 2011 have played Destiny as I've known it, as the experience that it's been for the last 11 years, where, you've had a limited selection of subclasses. You've had a limited selection of a lot of different things. But now with Prismatic and this idea of Frontiers, it's got people speculating and actually very invested and interested in this concept of what would a Destiny 3 look like, and if it's going to be a continuation of Destiny 2, or is it actually going to be its own standalone, experience. So it's going to be an interesting 12 months or so to sort of gauge where Bungie wants to go with it next, because it's all unknown.
Would you want a Destiny 3?
Yes and no. So, for selfish reasons, no. Only because I have gotten a lot of gear that I am attached to, and I don't want to let that stuff go.
Okay.
It's like I'm famous. I'm famous within my clan and my friends. I'm a big hand cannon user. Like that's all I use. It's all I use in PvP. It's all I use in PvE. I am known as the hand cannon guy. And there's rumors that a hand cannon that I've been waiting for called Palindrome might be coming back in the next chapter or two.
Okay.
And I would be devastated if they brought it back for the first time and I got to use it for like 6 months, and then they're like, all right, bye, we're on to a different game now. I'm like, no, don't do this to me.
So I know you're super huge in Destiny. Is there any games on the horizon you think it's going to be able to pull you away for a limited time? Like, I know you're big into sci-fi. Does Starfield's expansion intrigue you at all, or?
The thing about Starfield is I have heard such polarizing opinions on it that it's one of those things where I'm like waiting to see where maybe I might come back to it after it's gotten like a couple more expansions, just to see how it plays out as a whole product. But I know you and I talked about it when it came out last year, where you were like, it just feels like none of the contributions that you make actually mean anything. And it's like a typical Bethesda experience where, like, I think about, like, I love Fallout 4. Fallout 4 was a pivotal game in my life. I was going through a breakup at the time, and it was fun to just walk the wasteland, have the radio on, just help random people and experience the insanity that was.
Yeah.
But I remember when I beat Fallout, I would walk around and people would just be like, you're the guy that did that. And that was it. That was the only act I had on the game. And I was like, well, that didn't really change much.
No, not at all. Not at all.
And so I've kind of heard the same things from Starfield, where it's like, it's kind of like Skyrim in that regard, where it's like, oh, you're the Dovahkiin. And you're like, yeah. And that's as much as you'll hear as a guard occasionally going, you're that guy. So I'm like, Starfield, I'm like, undecided. Obviously awaiting more Elder Scrolls 6 news, because that seems to be interesting. GTA 6, obviously still awaiting some more news for that. But yeah.
Are you going to be playing that one pretty hard, GTA?
I never know. It's hard to know these days what will, like, I never know what will fully grasp me or like fully pull me in. So I'm always waiting to see. GTA has the potential. I've always really enjoyed GTA. So I'm hoping it's sort of that experience, but at the same time, I know that, especially at the moment, I have sort of that PvP bug. So I'm looking potentially, if the issues persist with Destiny's current sandbox, which has been absolutely heartbreaking because they fixed it and then blew it up like 2 months later. I'm looking at something like Halo Infinite. I know people really, really adore. Hell, even going back to the Halo Master Chief Collection and the PvP community, and Forge is still absolutely massive there. So I'm interested in that. But yeah, not entirely sure. It's always interesting.
You're a big sci-fi person as well. Like Star Wars Outlaws, does that do anything for you?
I'm always really skeptical of Ubisoft.
I am too.
It's like Far Cry, right? I love the Far Cry games. They're fun. They're absolutely over the top and ridiculous, but man, they are hit or miss if they are good or not.
God, you ain't lying.
Like sometimes, like, you play it and you're like, you just get sucked in and you're like, this is amazing. Like, I think it was Far Cry 3 and Far Cry 4.
Yeah.
Where I was like, those two absolutely slapped. And then it's like I played Far Cry 5 and I was like,
nah. I'm the same way. I'm the exact same way. It was 5. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was because we're in America and we're facing like these bumpkins from up north, and I'm like, it was a cult kind of vibe, and I'm like, I'm not really feeling this. But there was something about Vaz and like the swagger he had in 3, and that one really hit hard. 4, I really enjoyed as well. 5, like 6, I ended up playing just for what is his name?
Gus Fring.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. I was like, Breaking Bad, Gus. And the crazy thing is, I was just thinking about him because he was in the new Captain America trailer. Giancarlo Esposito.
Yeah, thank you, Giancarlo Esposito. Yes.
Yeah, so Giancarlo Esposito was the bad guy in this, and I'm like, I liked him in Breaking Bad. I really enjoyed him in The Mandalorian, and I'm like, yeah, Grogu, I love it. I absolutely love it. But like I really enjoy him as an actor, so I almost found myself playing that game more for him than I was actually enjoying the actual activities in the game. And I was and Ubisoft has this weird thing of like, I don't know why, but all their games play the same now. Is like Far Cry feels the same as Watch Dogs. Like Watch Dogs feels the same as the new Avatar game that just came out. It feels rinse, wash, and repeat. And so, like, when they do something outside of that norm, it feels refreshing and surprising. So, like, when I played Prince of Persia earlier this year, I'm like, oh, this actually feels fresh. This actually feels like it's something modern and different versus something that I've played 10 times over with a new skin on top,
Yeah. And I will, of course, give it a fair chance. Especially now as a consumer, I generally don't pre-order until I know. Just because, the price of games has been so high, which I totally get. I know that, companies need to make money, but like it's one of those things where Star Wars Outlaws is on the radar, but I'm going to wait until I see that review because I'm like, okay, if this is just Far Cry but Star Wars, or
it's gonna hurt, man.
Assassin's Creed but Star Wars, I'm like,
yeah, it's gonna feel like we already done that,
Yeah, and I there's definitely a hankering for an open world Star Wars game, and we've gotten that to a degree with the Jedi Survivor games, but I want to go. I think part of my other frustration too is it's a set character, and I'm like, I want to create my own character and make my own storyline and sort of experience that. So, I used to joke as a kid that I'm like, yeah, I want an Elder Scrolls, but it to be Star Wars. And I'm like, well, now I kind of want a Baldur's Gate, but to be Star Wars. But that's just Knights of the Old Republic. And I'm like, this is a tough position to be in. So we'll see.
See, I'm on the opposite end of the train. I'm like, I sort of like there's a set character that has like a set storyline because I love stories. I'm like, tell me a really intricate story with a character and make me fall in love with them. Because I'm like, I think one of the things Ubisoft really needs is like a polarizing character that is actually mainstream. Like a character that people actually can recognize. Because I'm like. If I'm like, Far Cry has that identity problem of like you play as a different person every time, and you never see that person, so it's really hard to connect with that. I think, Watch Dogs has that same thing of like they kept switching protagonists, so we never really got attached to anyone. I think Splinter Cell may have been their last franchise to where they actually, I think Sam Fisher is like that character of like, we actually have fallen in love with the character. We want to see the next evolution of that person. And with all their other franchises, it sort of feels like, okay, we're here for a good time, not a long time. So we pick a set piece character and that just matches the environment. And I think that works to a certain extent as a popcorn flick style of game, but but I think it sort of dilutes a overall brand. I'm like,
well, I think to sort of play off what you're saying though, like I think the popcorn flick type of game is great for a popcorn flick type of game.
Yeah, for
like
sure.
if it's like a COD campaign kind of thing where it's like, okay, you play this really action packed thing for like 10 hours, but like you keep changing the characters. That's that's still engaging. It's still really good.
Sure.
But it's like, but yeah, like you're saying, if it's something where it's like you really want to dive into the character, you really want to go through the story, which these open world expansive games are supposed to be, it's like, yeah, you don't really.
No, you never
you
really
don't
get
build
involved with anyone. You know?
Yeah, you never really. It's kind of like sort of the brilliance of Red Dead Redemption 2. It's like, you know, I remember as a kid building a connection with John Marston, and then he dies at the end of Red Dead, and you're like, what? Now I have to be John Marston's son? And it was like, I would load back to the save
Just to
before,
play with
because I'm
him.
like, I want to be John Marston. I don't care about finishing the story.
Yeah.
And then with Red Dead 2, it's like, you get to become John Marston again. And so it was like, I felt that connection to be like, okay, I got to finish this because I want to be John Marston and go do John Marston things across, you know, the country. So
I completely agree with you, because I'm like, I got connected with Arthur Morgan, and it got to a point to where I'm like, I was like, dang, I sort of miss him, but I'm back with John. I'm like, oh yeah.
Well, Arthur, like, love Arthur Morgan, and then he dies, and you're like, dang it! I'm like, I remember, like, I wanted to do like a second playthrough, and I'm like, I can't go through that again.
Nah.
I know, like, I'm not gonna even go. I'm not gonna even progress the story. It's not fun anymore. I don't want to do this.
No, Red Dead is one of those series to where you're like, I like this character. That must mean they're about to die. So I'm like, it does feel that way. But like, it's like I respect that style of game so much, because I'm like, Red Dead 1 and 2 has an identity behind it.
Yeah.
Whereas like Far Cry, I think it's more of like, the gameplay is the identity, and when the gameplay is the same thing over and over again, it's like Far Cry is the new open world Madden game. It's like Madden has been the same thing for 10 years now, or at least, you know, since they went 3D with it. And Far Cry has felt the same since Far Cry 3, you know?
Yep. Well, to quote my favorite Destiny streamer, shout out to a guy named Cool Guy. He does these really in-depth reviews of weapons and things. And we've gotten to the point where it's like, you know, there's one of everything in the game already. So it's like when he's doing a review, he'll go, I mean, this is the same, but different. And it's like, that's what we want. We want the same, but different. Like, I want to play Far Cry, but I don't want it to feel like Far Cry 3 and Far Cry 4 and Far Cry 5.
Yeah, exactly.
I want it to be a Far Cry game, but I want it to be different. So
Exactly. So with how quick did you bounce off of Helldivers? Because I know you were in it for a while. You were in it for a little bit. I'm like,
yeah, for a little bit. I want to say it lasted a month. Like, it was.
That's good though, right?
It was good. Because it was much needed. I mean, like I said, Destiny went through a really tough period. I mean, Bungie laid off a third of its company. And it was very doom and gloom with the delay, and people didn't really like the story. I had friends who didn't touch the game for months, and it was rough. And then Helldivers just came out of nowhere, and it was like, okay, I'm gonna hop on this train real quick. And then once Into the Light came out, and they, like I said, as a big PvP guy, they fundamentally changed the entire sandbox for the better, I should note. Like, they made such a huge fundamental sandbox shift that I was like, oh my gosh, PvP is really good now, where it hasn't been in that spot since I've been playing. So it's like, okay, well, Helldivers is fun, but I want to go play all this new stuff. So
yeah, I can understand that. You've been on record, at least like officially with me. You told me in the chat that, old FPS games will always be better than new FPS games. That was your hot take you told me. Why do you think that is? Like, do you feel like there's like a certain component to that? Like, why do you think that?
I think there's a lot of reasons why. And I should clarify, because I was talking this out with my friend, because I was like, I want to get this point. I want to get what I'm trying to feel that properly
convey your thoughts there.
Yeah. I want to get it properly translated so people don't get it confused. Because like indie games do it different. And I think indie games, because there isn't the pressure of, a studio behind it, or there isn't an IP necessarily addressed with it, that they have the freedom to sort of, pursue what they want to pursue. And I think it leads to great FPS games. Things like Ultra Kill, right, are just phenomenal experiences. My problem is with the AAA multiplayer shooter scene.
I'm right there with you.
And I was telling my friend, I'm like, it will never be the same again because of how it's become monetized, how the gameplay expectations have changed. I remember I grew up on Battlefield 1942. I grew up on Battlefield 2, Battlefield Vietnam. I was a huge fan of the Battlefield series. And then Battlefield 5 dropped, and I remember I came around to Battlefield 5 after its sort of tumultuous run.
To say the least.
To say the least. And I remember coming into it and being like, my God, this isn't Battlefield anymore. This is COD.
Yeah.
And I remember when Halo 5 came out and was like, oh, this is exciting. And the first thing they have you do in Halo 5 is like slide. And I was like, no, that's not Halo. So part of my gripe is they've become too vanilla. They've become to a degree, they've become too over complex. I think one of the things that makes Doom Eternal so good, Doom Eternal at its heart plays like Doom. You run around as fast as you possibly can. There's no speed control. There's just go.
Yeah.
You either stop or you go. You either jump high or you don't. There is no in between. And the focus is on killing things as quickly as you possibly can. There's a little bit of an upgrade system to things, but like just enough to where it's not like, you know, like the people that play Warzone and they're like showing me, okay, this is how I tuned my weapon. I'm like, what are you talking about? like no, like just the pure nostalgic fun and simplicity of like loading into Unreal Tournament and just running around, picking up ammo and picking up guns. The sandbox was really easy to balance because everybody's using the same weapons. Everybody has the same sprint speed. Everybody has the same controls and the maps are the same. We've moved so far away from that. To a degree, I totally understand. You know, you have to innovate. You have to push forward. But just the simplicity's not there anymore. You have, like I said, the over monetization. I mean, every game has a battle pass now. Every game is pushing you to do some objective, to get some in-game currency, to go buy some skin or go buy some weapon pattern or blueprint or something. Like it's not just, you know, oh, I want the new gun. I just play the game and get the gun. It's okay, you have to go use some gun that you don't want to use and you have to get so many kills with it and then you have to go onto some map and do some Easter egg and I'm like,
it does feel exhausting, doesn't it?
It's not just a pick up and play experience. And I, again, say that ironically as a Destiny player, because Destiny suffers from the same thing. Like, you know, I talk to people who want to get into Crucible, and it's like I have to host something called Crucible School and like have to show them, okay, this is how you build out your character. These are the guns you should use. These are the guns you shouldn't. And I'm like, that's exhausting. Like and this is why, like, you know, as somebody who tried to get back into COD, I quit because it's such an insurmountable amount of information. I remember when Modern Warfare was like just a pick up and play experience, or Battlefield 1942 or 2 was just a pick up and play experience. Of course, there's always some level of progression, but there isn't all of this extra stuff to define every weapon in the game, and you need your 8 attachments and all these things. It was just, okay, at a certain rank, you get a gun. And that simplicity, the monetization, and of course, the other big problem that has sort of plagued FPS games has been cheating.
Yeah,
cheat software is more accessible than it's ever been. I mean, cheating software is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's prevalent in every FPS game on planet Earth. It's happening on console with people using Cronus and Zim. I mean, it's just tough. I just don't feel like that we're ever going to get a point again where we will just have a Modern Warfare where it's like, you know, you just play through it, you level up, there's no battle pass, you get a DLC every 3 or 4 months that gives you like 5 new maps and maybe a new operator or something like that. But we've moved so far beyond I think that golden age of FPS games that it's impossible to return back. I mean, I hear people tell me all the time how much they love the Halo 3 multiplayer experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I look at Halo Infinite. It's such a different experience.
It really is.
Halo Infinite now has the sprinting and the sliding and grappling and all the different AI options.
The hook shot,
the hook shot, and it's like it's not just I remember playing Halo 3 and the best way to kill somebody was to run directly at them with an assault rifle and melee them. And like if you got your melee off first, you were the better player.
Yeah,
it's just we've just moved so far away from it that it's tough. It's I find enjoyment because I mean there are definitely good multiplayer experiences out there, but it's just like I always look back and go, man, we are never gonna have that simplicity of such low barrier to entry for a lot of FPS games ever again, because the gaming market has just changed so fundamentally from games like Fortnite and COD that every FPS experience now seems to be pretty similar to the last.
Yeah, I think like people. I don't think you're alone. I don't think you're alone in this assessment of like, wanting something more nostalgic and more pick up and play friendly. I think like when I hear how many games are like dying immediately in that FPS zone, especially with the live service bubble seemingly bursting before us. I wonder though, people have an extreme reaction when they hate something or when they tired of something. They often lean towards other things, kind of in that genre. I wonder if this is going to be like the revitalization of a FPS campaign, like movement, so to speak, of waves there.
Yeah, I really hope so. I mean, I remember when I played the original Call of Duty, and the campaign was great. Like I remember Call of Duty 2 was such a unique experience because you played, 3 different characters across the three different forces in World War II, and it was such a huge focus, and the missions were so engaging and a lot of fun. Or I think of like Medal of Honor Airborne.
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
that's a good one.
that was a really fun experience where it was like you had really linear progression, but I mean, the missions themselves had really high replayability because you wanted to see how different guns would work on different maps, or how you could play the objectives differently. It's hard. We're hard pressed to find games that do that anymore. I mean, there are tons of indie games that do that.
Yeah, for sure.
God bless them for doing so, because if we didn't, I'd go crazy. But yeah, it's like I grew up on Half-Life. It's like I can't remember since Half-Life Alyx like getting and even then it's become so overly complicated and I respect Valve, and Valve are my heroes, but like I just wanted a regular old Half-Life game. I don't want to play it in VR.
I understand that completely.
We've just moved so far from those things that it's like, man, someday I'm hoping that people tire of a slave to the live service with Destiny. It's like, I really hope that we break it, because it's not all it's cracked up to be. Like, I won't lie. As somebody who went and played Destiny 1 last summer, and I know there are people that will push back against me and go, oh, well, you played Destiny 1 in 2023, and you didn't play it while it was, truly a live game, and blah, blah, blah. To me, it's a better experience. I think and everybody says I'm crazy for this. I think it plays better at 30 frames per second than it does at any other frame rate. The game plays slower. The gun plays more satisfying. The game plays more difficult because it's more linear. Like you have the ability trees, but like abilities are not the focus of the game. The gunplay is, and part of it is because it's a solo experience because nobody plays it anymore. But it's like, you go into a regular strike and you feel a sense of urgency. You feel a sense of difficulty that just isn't present as much in something like Destiny 2, because Destiny 2 is so huge. I mean, there's so many different ways to play that game, and you have constant access to so many different builds and things, whereas Destiny 1 didn't have that. And I sort of miss the simplicity of that linear gameplay. I think there's a lot of value in just simple linear gameplay that I think we lose. Again, totally understand, we have to innovate, we have to push forward.
Yeah, for sure.
People have expectations of FPS games, but it's like sometimes I just want a simple, like you said, like an easy to play experience that I can just hop into, as opposed to one where it's like, I'm thinking about earlier today, I'm like, okay, I got to play my 3 comp matches because then I got to get that one gun. And then if I don't play these comp matches, well, then I'm going to have to play it at some point this week, because if I don't get it, then I'm going to have to go back in and I'm not going to get the role that I want because I didn't do this. And then, well, what am I going to do with the rest of my night? Because then I got to go. It's like,
it sounds like you're managing your second job right now.
It feels that way at times, because it's like, yeah, it's part of it's FOMO, and then another part of it's like, I just want to get in and just play the game, and I think that opportunity is lost on a lot of current FPS games.
So with the news of like other FPS games, or at least like games as a service games in this case, like falling off the wayside, you see like Skull and Bones came out and died immediately, like yeah, for sure. I was the same way. I was like, please don't let this succeed. But like, yeah, that was rough.
Mini rant about Skull and Bones. Sea of Thieves does it so much better. How dare they try to make a game like Sea of Thieves and make it so monetized and terrible? The marketing was horrible, and everything about that thing was horrible, and I'm so happy it died.
So you got like Skull and Bones came out, it came and went. You got all these other ones that had a similar fate. Suicide Squad today on Amazon Prime Day, they were running a special where on PC that game is free now. Like, it's not free to play, but you can pick Suicide Squad up, a game that came out this year, by the way, up for the free for Epic. So I'm like, if you're an Amazon Prime member, you can basically log in, claim Suicide Squad. It would link to your Epic account, and you would now own that game as long as you picked it up today. So that feels like a death knell, doesn't it, to you? Like, it feels like the writing's on the wall there.
I really hope so. I mean, they never learn. Because it's like the Madden problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I was talking, because my friend brought up a really good point. He's like, yeah, I see that the Metacritic ratings for these old FPS games are really good, but what sold more? And I'm like, I know it sold more. I get that these games sell, and I get that for a lot of casual players that this is a product they want. And I understand that there are people in the market who do not care. They are going to buy a COD game. They don't care what it is. They will buy it because it is Call of Duty.
Yeah,
and that's fine. And that's totally respectable. And I'm happy that they have that dedication. At the same time, it's exhausting. It's exhausting because it feels like it's that barrier to entry thing. And that's, I think, part of the reason it's so hard for me to get off of Destiny on other games is the barrier to entry is equal to Destiny or slightly lower than Destiny. And I'm like, I
could just be playing Destiny at that point.
Yeah, it's like I look at like COD. The process to unlock the blueprints for the weapons and do all the weapon tuning and learn how to play within the sandbox and do all those things, it's daunting. It's absolutely daunting. And instead of it just being and I know this is a horrendous example, but like Battlefront 2, despite all of its flaws and issues, I picked up the game when they brought co-op back, and this was basically at the end of their dev cycle, so they had ironed out a lot of the monetization issues and everything. That game is just a pick up and play experience, and I was addicted to it during all of COVID. I mean, I clocked on my PC, I clocked like 400 or 500 hours, and then on my PlayStation I clocked another 800 or 900 hours of play on there, because it's just, there's nothing to Battlefront. Like, you just pick it up and play it. Like, there's some skill gap with heroes and things like that, learning how to use the heroes, but an assault trooper is an assault trooper. You get a blaster rifle and you do what you got to do. And there just isn't that kind of simple, easy to pick up FPS game anymore, or at least consistently in the AAA market. And definitely feel like if one of those came along, they'd fill a huge niche that just isn't present anymore.
Maybe that's why people are gravitating so strong to Doom, like especially with Doom Eternal, and maybe it's that pick up and playness of like I could just pop in for 15 minutes. I don't really have to worry about very many people. It also is probably why Xbox is trying so hard to revitalize Gears of War. It's one of those things to where I'm like, for the most part, Gears of War is kind of stupidly simple. It is like you shoot, get under cover, shoot for more while you're in cover, and then you move on. You progress, or you get murked. That's pretty much the only like that is you progress or you get murked. You do it successfully, or that's the ass. So I'm like, it really isn't much more than that. But like, I think people long for simplicity with games like that.
Or you see it. Another really funny example is Battlefield 2042.
Oh yeah.
You had, mind you, they have, from what I've heard, I was one of the poor suckers who bought pre-ordered the game, bought the season pass, and was like, all right, I'm committed. This is supposed to be like Battlefield 4.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really good example is 2042, where, at least the last time I played it, they had, they had a bunch of guns that they added, but in Battlefield 4, a lot of people loved it because it was like, okay, you would unlock a weapon, and that was like what you looked for was the weapon itself. Whereas 2042 was like, no, we have one weapon, but it's got like 20 attachments, and it's like, no, I'd rather just have 20 different weapons that I try to unlock and play for, and those kinds of things. And even then, it's like, I don't even want to go through the unlock process. I just want the one gun, and just have the one gun be good. And I don't have to like hop on YouTube and be like, okay, what's the meta setup for the M4 carbine? Like, it should just be good out of the box. I don't need to have to Google this. I don't need to have to, and I experience this with Destiny all the time. I don't need to have YouTube as a constant resource running on hours on end in the background while I'm working. So I go, oh, okay, that's how I increase my TTK by 0.05 seconds is by adding this one attachment. Like, just make it simple. just keep it linear. It's fine.
You say this, and I'm getting PTSD from Elden Ring. Like that's literally how I felt playing Elden Ring. Like I never could completely get on the train with Elden Ring, is because like for one, the story is not simple. Like I'm a linear guy. I like storytelling that's done in a more traditional format. That's who I am as a person. Like, give me a God of War or Uncharted style of storytelling any day. I don't want to have to read one piece of scroll and get the next scroll to pick up the next part of the story. I'm like, tell me who I am in this world. Like, why do I matter? Why?
It's another example like that's like Path of Exile. I don't know if you ever tried that, but it was like my brother and my dad got really into it, and they're like, okay, you need to play Path of Exile. And I was like, okay, cool, let's do it. I want to roll a warrior. And they're like, what kind of warrior? And I'm like, I don't know. I just want to use like I joked. I told them, I'm like, I want to be Thor. And they were like, okay, so here's a Thor build. And then they had to download this internet plugin that would show you how to navigate like the 4,000 perks to find the right things. They're like, okay, and when you get to this level, you need to buy Mjolnir. And I was like, no, I'm out. This is too much. I'm like, just give me an axe and call it a day. This is too much.
You're saying this, it makes me just want to play more college football at this point. I'm just like, I can't be bothered.
It's like there's another like, and that was like one of the things I loved about FIFA, right? It's like, you did your training, you played your match. You did your training, you played your match. Like, I could get off work, I could play like 8-10 matches in career mode, and then go into the transfer market, and I spend like 2 seconds doing research online. Okay, who has high potential? And like, that's it. That was like all of the work. And it was just, you vibed out to the soundtrack and you just had a good time playing the game. Whereas it's like, that is not the case anymore. It's all so, it's just too much. I'm like, I just want a simple pick it up and play it and giggle at it for a bit and then put it down.
Okay, Alec, I want to ask you one last question before we move on to one of our games for the evening. And the question is, outside of gaming, is there anything you're looking forward to, just in general? And the spear of life. Because me myself is like I find myself trying not to let myself get too excited for Deadpool versus Wolverine. Like that's a big one I'm excited about. I'm about to go blackout mode of like not watching any more trailers. I'm tired of the trailers. Just give me the experience.
I just had that conversation with a friend the other day. I was like, remember when we used to be excited for MCU movies?
Yeah, that's it.
It's like, I used to show up to midnight showings.
Yeah.
It was like the biggest deal. And now I'm like, they announced a new MCU movie and I'm like,
why? You're like, I might catch that on Disney Plus at this point.
We're in a tough space right now. I mean, I'm really excited for when Strange New Worlds comes back. I mean, I think CBS has done a very good job with that, and I swallow my pride a little bit saying that because I don't think they've necessarily done the best job with Star Trek.
That's the animated one, right? Or
the animated one. So Lower Decks, which is coming into its own final season, which is sad as heck. But I'd rather they cut it off while it's good than
keep going
let it run until it's bad. So I mean, in that vein, the Fallout show was absolutely incredible, and the way that they teased sort of a New Vegas thing at the end of it was really exciting. So that's something to really look forward to. Always look forward to Star Wars projects, even though I sometimes cover my eyes and just hope for the best.
The Acolyte's been rough this year, man. Like, have you watched any of it? I was like, it feels rough, man. This is like sandpaper.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to.
I think there's some really good episodes. So
yes. I should note, I don't think it's as bad as the internet makes it out to be.
No, for sure not.
I think that one actor, it's not helping himself with anything he says. But I think the show itself, the 5th episode, was awesome.
Oh, absolutely.
That was really,
amazing.
really, really, really enjoyable to see. I thought Ahsoka was really good. I personally really enjoyed the Obi-Wan show. I mean,
I liked it. I did not like Boba Fett, though. I did not like Boba Fett, if I'm being honest.
Well, it's one of those things where it's like, when I was a kid, Boba Fett was the badass. Like, you saw Boba Fett on screen, you're like, oh, something's about to go down.
Yeah.
And then they brought him back in Mando. And again, same thing. Like, oh, it's about to go down. Like, he's got his armor. He dropped the big, the concussion bomb thing back on those TIE fighters.
Yeah.
And they've had that theme going behind him with the big bass drums. It was like, okay, Boba Fett's back, man. I can't wait for this TV show. And then he comes back and he's saying things like a bantha. And you're like, no,
this ain't Boba, man. This ain't Boba.
So, yeah, I'm always keeping my eye out for those kinds of things because you never know what you'll find. We do have what's it called? The Gearbox game.
You talking about the Borderlands show? The Borderlands
movie? We had the Borderlands movie coming out, and that just looks like Guardians of the Galaxy, but light. It's an interesting time. I'm trying to remain optimistic because, some things have been, like I said, they've been absolutely incredible. The Fallout show was absolutely incredible.
It was good.
As a Fallout fan, it felt really good to take that in. I felt like the payoff was worth it because it was at times it was like, I don't quite know where this is going. And then that final episode hit really, really well.
Did you watch Dune 2 this year?
I did see Dune 2. I'm going to be honest. I don't understand Dune. I saw the first Dune. My girlfriend and I watched it, and we kind of looked at each other, and we were like, "Okay, I can see why I can see why people like this. It's not necessarily my thing." And then I watched Dune 2, and I was like, "I can see why people like this, but it's not necessarily my thing." And that has gotten a lot of backlash, but it's just not my thing. I've tried to give it its thing, and I'm just like, I don't quite get it.
Well, at least you tried it.
Yeah, and that's my thing is I'm always willing to try it, but yeah, if it doesn't land with me, it just doesn't land. And I've stopped predicting what will and what won't land because it's just like Yeah, I talk about how much I love story and all these things, and then at the same time, one of the things I look forward to all week is watching wrestling night with my friends, and he'll throw on like old clips of like the Attitude Era, and it's just
Yeah.
Stone Cold hopping out of an ambulance and
Hmm.
beating the hell out of like Triple H, and I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
But I'm like, yeah, I don't understand culture, so
I completely agree with that. I'm like, I love that. I absolutely love that. The Attitude Era is probably one of my favorite eras of wrestling. Like I like the Attitude, the like right after the Attitude Era with the Ruthless, right between that and the Ruthless Aggression Era is probably my favorite gap of wrestling of all time. But like I didn't think I would ever say this in my life, but this era that's currently going on right now, it's probably getting really close to becoming one of my favorites right
it's
now.
entertaining as hell. I think it's kind of like Helldivers, where I just shut my brain off and buy into it. I'm like, yeah, fingers up for the bloodline, and
I acknowledge my travel cheat.
It cracks some of my friends up because they're not wrestling people, but it's just fun to just shut my brain off and just buy into the absurdity of it all. And I'm like, it's the worst kind of entertainment, but damn it, it's entertaining.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're like, I understand what this is. I understand why people wouldn't like it, but damn it, I'm one of those people that really loves this. Like, yeah, I pledge allegiance to this medium at this point, and I'm like, I get it. I completely get it. I'm like, I'm still one of those people today. Like, if I have time, I'll watch an episode. If I don't, I'll watch highlights. And I'm one of those people who buys in. And I'm like, oh, they introduced this new Wyatt group, and I'm like, yes, let's go. And I'm like, I want to see blood. I want to see the chaos. And then there's like a storyline now of like Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio, and they're all into like a quasi love triangle. And I'm like, I love this. This is reality TV, but I don't like reality TV. But when it comes to my zone, I'm loving this.
Yeah, I'm like, and I tell because my girlfriend tries to get me into like her trash TV shows, and sometimes I'll buy into them, but other times I'm like, no, I can't do this. But then I'm over here like watching, the whole Rey Mysterio fighting for the custody of his kid back in the early 2000s.
The ladder match.
Yeah, the ladder match, and I'm like, this is the dumbest thing ever. But damn it, you gotta win, Rey.
And they had little baby Dominic Mysterio in the middle of the graphic, and he looked like the saddest kid in America at the time. Eddie Guerrero would come out with a shirt that said, "I'm your papi" on it.
See, that's why I watch it. It's just so absurd that I'm like, it's so entertaining. I'm like, I just have to see what's gonna happen next.
You got to. You can't make that stuff up, man.
You can't. It's just like, and that's why like my favorite wrestling moment I think I've experienced was I have this friend who's been showing us these old wrestling moments, and we do these wrestling nights. And I got one of our friends who's like, I'm not gonna watch this. I was like, no, you gotta watch this. And so he was showing us matches, and he's like, I don't really get it. And I was like, no, you gotta go find the Buried Alive match where Stone Cold hops out of the ambulance, beats the shit out of Triple H, and then throws him in the ambulance and then hits him with a truck. And the guy was like, what? And then we played the thing for him, and he was laughing. He's like, this is amazing. And I'm like, yes, this is amazing.
That era felt like anything could happen. Like at any given time, anything could happen. Anything could happen. I'm like, I will never forget where I was. I was at my grandmother's house, and I had seen like the Rikishi, the person I had grown up laughing at and like admiring and dancing with, and he's wearing like this big band thong, and he's always entertaining me and such like that. And he ran over a person in a car, and I'm like, what's going on? And I was like, he was revealed to be the person who ran over another person. I'm like, no, not Kishi. And I'm like. And I'm like, it just rocked my world. I was at school the next day. I was like, I just can't believe it was Kishi, man. Like, I just can't believe it was Kishi. Teachers over there trying to teach us and educate us, and I'm like, I don't give a damn about what you said right now. My whole world is rocked.
Exactly.
Man, but nah, man, it's been really cool as far as like movies this year, and it's been I'm looking forward to Deadpool and Wolverine, and then the other one is Gladiator 2. Did you see the trailer for that?
Interesting. I did.
So the reason I'm looking forward to that, because I do think one is a classic, and I don't think there should have been a sequel, but I'm a Denzel person to the core of me. Like I
Fair.
don't think he chooses a bad movie. It's like he may choose a movie
Okay.
that I don't watch more than once, but I don't ever remember seeing a bad, oh, this is a terrible Denzel movie, you know?
Fair.
So I'm like, I look at that and I'm like, okay, if he's in it, then at least it must be at least solid to good. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a eight or above, but at least it starts as.
Yeah, I saw Denzel and I saw Pedro Pascal, and I was like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm intrigued. So it's one of those things where it's another one where I keep a tab on it, and I'm like, okay, if I hear good things, great. But if it's like Napoleon, no.
Oh yeah, I understand that. I understand that completely. I was kind of looking forward to Napoleon, and then I kind of heard all the buzz about it, and I was like, oh, I can wait for that one.
Yeah, that's what ended up happening with me too. So it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, when I have a flight or something, I might download it and watch it then.
Yeah.
But yeah, the rest of the time, I'm like, I don't know if I might go out of my way to see it.
I understand. The movie just came out that I'm surprised is getting really good reviews because I thought this was going to be dead on arrival, or at least like a popcorn flick where people go in expecting this type of movie and that's the movie they got. But they're actually saying it's better than what I expected, and that's Twisters 2. Like,
yeah, that's
Twisters,
another one.
Yeah,
where
Twisters. What?
I've been seeing the reviews, and I'm like, okay, it's holding over an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes. That is way higher than I thought it was going to be.
Especially for a disaster movie.
Yeah, when I saw the trailer, I was like, okay, that looks like a fun time, but this movie's gonna suck. And
I was thinking that too.
And then to see that it's doing well, I was like, okay, well, maybe I gotta add it to the list.
Yeah, I looked at that movie and I was just like, I feel like this is a movie that The Rock would normally be in. And
Yes.
It sort of felt like that. And they were like, we can't get The Rock for this movie, so we're still going to put it out there. And that's what I was expecting. And I was like, oh, this is actually turning out to be a good movie for a lot of people. And I'm like, I might have to see Twisters.
Yeah, it's on the list. I know we just had also the recent season of The Boys, which I'm trying to catch up.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get to because I'm working through season 2, but that's another one that I'm looking forward to. And then I just started Reacher as well, and I know Reacher season 2 dropped, I think, earlier this year, and I heard very good things about that as well. So there's a lot of good stuff out there right now.
Oh, it really is. It really is. We used to do this little game show that I'd ask you some trivia questions and you rise to the challenge, but I want to
former champion.
Yeah, you absolutely Hall of Famer there. So yeah. I want to play a different game with you tonight, and that is what makes you most excited? What gets you more hype? Which game? And so I'm gonna read out 2 games, and you're gonna tell me which game you think is gonna be the better game, and then which one gets you most hype. So you got 2 things you're gonna do: better game and most hype between the 2 categories. All right, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. So Star Wars Outlaws or Indiana Jones and the Lost Circle.
Okay, I'm gonna be real.
Okay.
As a massive Indiana Jones fan, I'm giving it all to Indiana Jones.
Because
I'm really happy that you mentioned that, because my 7 o'clock brain couldn't even comprehend the world right now, because I am really, really, really excited for that game.
Wow.
I think it is probably going to suck, but man, I can't wait. I can't wait to just absolutely put on my indie hat and my jacket and just absolutely play the crap out of that game. Like that, I am so excited. It looks jank. I will not lie. Every time I see gameplay, I am like, that combat is the worst thing I have ever seen in my life. But man, I can't wait to play it.
Indiana Jones, like the Lost Circle, looks like a VR game a lot of the times. It really does look like a VR game.
I keep seeing this first-person punching combat. I'm like, this looks terrible, but oh my god, I can't wait. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. It's especially as a fan of what was it? The Emperor's Tomb, like that third-person action-style game. It was like Tomb Raider. It was so good. So I'm like, I'm really hoping that this game is good. And I'm really, really excited for it. So yeah, I have zero faith in Star Wars Outlaws just because of
Okay.
Ubisoft. So I'm giving it to another company I have almost zero faith in, but I have slightly more faith in Bethesda than Ubisoft. So
Okay. I like that. I like that. Okay, so the next one is Silent Hill 2, the second Silent Hill game, or
okay.
you have more faith in Starfield and the Starfield expansion.
Oh Lord, probably Silent Hill in that point. I mean, I have never played the Silent Hill games,
I
so
haven't either. I'm a chicken.
yeah, same. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
very much out of my depth. But yeah, Starfield seems like it's in a weird spot. I think it almost needs like an identity shift. So I'm
Mhm.
hoping that this DLC brings it. So I would say I'm probably more excited for Starfield because that's something I would be more likely to play. But I would think that Silent Hill 2 would be better than Starfield.
Okay, I got you. I got you. Two really different games here. Black Myth Wukong or
Oh,
Concord by PlayStation.
I don't know if I've heard of either of these.
Oh, really? Concord is
Yeah.
like it's almost like it's PlayStation's version of Guardians of the Galaxy meets
Oh my God! I saw the trailer for that.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, Guardians
Yes.
of the Galaxy meets Overwatch basically.
Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't too confident in Concord. I saw the trailer
Yeah.
for it and I was like, oh boy, this just looks like a mess.
And Black Myth Wukong is the almost like the Souls-like game where you're playing as the monkey, the anthropomorphic monkey that's standing up, and he's like he's like the legendary monkey that Dragon Ball Z was based off of.
Oh,
And
interesting.
yeah, so you have you're playing as a monkey that has a staff, and you can collect, I guess, other abilities and weapons along the way, but you're like taking down other, like, a lot of I think the Zodiacs in the game and such like that.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yes.
I'm giving it to Black Myth Wukong then, because yeah, both for probably better and more exciting. Because yeah, Concord looks
It looks
it
rough,
it
but it
looks
looks like fun though.
it looks fun. It just looks like Apex, or or like you were
Hmm.
saying, not Apex. Oh God, the other
Overwatch.
one, Overwatch. Thank you. And there's so many of those hero shooter games that I'm like, to
Yeah,
stand out in that crowd is tough.
and Marvel's coming out with another one, like Marvel Rivals and such like that. Marvel, like, yeah, yeah, I can understand that.
I'm still reeling from the Avengers experience. That was a tough. I like my dad got really into it and absolutely loved it.
The
But
Avengers game?
yeah,
Whoa,
yeah, I know.
whoa.
I know. He like I tried playing it and was like, this is fine. Definitely wouldn't play it all that much because I'm like, this is the same mission, just different, and it's not good.
Yeah, I
So
can see
yeah.
that. I can see that. So, next game on the list, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, which is like the Tenkaichi remake, so to speak, or like
Okay.
the game that's very much like Dragon Ball Tenkaichi from back in the day. Or the next game is Sonic X Shadows Generations.
Oh, interesting. I feel like Sonic is another one where because these are both two games that I don't play, but like I've heard a lot of excitement around Sonic. But I've
Yeah.
also heard a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Um, like bated breath. Like
Mhm.
they're worried that because is it a remaster if I remember correctly or no?
It's a remaster of, you're talking about Sonic, right? Sonic
Yeah.
X Shadow. So it's like a remaster of like Sonic Generations, but I think they're just adding Shadow to a lot of these
Okay.
levels.
Yeah, I know a lot from what I was hearing that people were like worried that they weren't going to get the remaster part of it
Mhm.
well. So,
I can understand.
so interested. I would say that I'm probably more excited for Sonic because I'd probably be more likely to play it, but I think the Dragon Ball game is probably going to be better.
Okay, okay. All right. So, which one would you be more interested in? New a new Xbox portable handheld device, or yeah, or a dedicated PlayStation portable handheld that's not for portable.
That's tough. I mean, shoot.
Like, which one would be more interesting for you? Because I'm curious.
It's a tough one because it puts me in a weird spot. Like I can either have Halo be portable, and I
Yeah.
could play Halo, or I could have Destiny be portable, and I could play Destiny on the go. Uh,
Destiny's for Xbox though, right?
that's true. You could play it on either platform.
I was
So
about to
yeah,
say, I was like, I think
but
it's cross-platform.
Those PlayStation exclusives, though, I mean, that's tough to turn down.
That is.
Could be
But
playing
Xbox,
Ghost
you
of
got Game Pass on the go though.
Ah. Oh man, that's tough.
Yeah.
Can I cheat and go Steam Deck?
I have a Steam Deck, so I would say that's a pretty good option.
But I, given that the Game Pass, I'd probably go Xbox just because I think the Game Pass is, and I say this as a PlayStation 5 owner, but don't have an Xbox One X. The PS Gold membership is dookie. Like it's fine.
Yeah.
You get a free game, or you get a couple free games every month. Sometimes the free games are really good, but
the game
Plus. The Game Pass though is unmatched. I mean, what, for $10 or $15 you could just play almost anything.
Yeah, that raised the price of Ultimate from 15 to 20 now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so now it's almost Netflix prices at this point, but
I mean, I'm not watching Netflix.
Yeah, I was like, between the two, though. Between the two, you might lean Game Pass over Netflix. But, yeah. So, Alec, I think we got a strong indication of what you're leaning towards between those options. My last questions, because I got two last final questions for you. My first one is, what are you most looking forward to video game-wise?
Honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, the one I'm most looking forward to is probably Indiana Jones. Just because it's a franchise that gets a lot of love, but doesn't get a lot of content. Did
you like the recent movie though? I love the pause. I love how you like, oh man.
Yes and no. So I will say this much. I think it is the second worst movie in the series, which it's better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
That ain't saying much.
Exactly. It's one of those things where they played it very safe. They tried to introduce new characters, which I think was a mistake. I think they should have just bought full into the nostalgia. And just gone full into having nostalgic characters be on screen. I personally think Indy should have stayed in the past. I actually thought when he crash lands and he goes, "Let me stay," I was like, you know what? Out of all of the endings for Indy, to have him end in a period of history that he loves and adores and is interested in, is fitting for the character. I think it buys into the absolute zaniness of all of the Indiana Jones movies, where my favorite thing about all the Indiana Jones movies is it does not matter that Indy is there. He just happens to show up. Everything happens without him totally fine. I mean, the only one being Temple of Doom, he did directly impact that. So I will give him credit for that. Obviously, Ark of the Covenant, I mean, it killed all the Nazis anyways. The Holy Grail, it killed all the Nazis anyways. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, the Soviets died anyways. So I was happy that, he's like, yeah, you idiots. He went back in time. I didn't have to do anything. I was like, okay, good. I'm happy they got that part. But yeah, it was just very safe. It was, as a huge Star Trek fan, Picard Season 3 gave us closure for the next gen series. The next gen series. It was, we got to see the characters for a final send-off and a lovely scene, and it was great. And we never really got that with Indy, and it just felt like the story was a little disjointed. And, at the beginning of the movie, Marion hates him, but then at the end of the movie, they're in love again, and it's like, well, they haven't interacted. What's changed? So it wasn't bad. I gave it like a 5 or a 6 out of 10, whereas like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which I do think is better than people give it credit for, especially if you watch it in context of the other indie movies, it still is just a fun adventure movie, just with really bad CGI and Shia LaBeouf. So in those aspects, it was fine. It was just
Okay.
it was a decent movie to just sit down and watch and be like, okay, that was indie.
So with this game, are you okay with Troy Baker being Indiana Jones? I'm like, does his voice feel indie
Yeah,
enough for you? Okay.
yeah, I really appreciated that. I thought that he did a really good job, at least from what I've seen from trailers and
Hmm.
the little snippets. I thought he does a really, out of all the people outside of Mark Hamill, he does a really good Harrison Ford impression.
Yeah.
So I've really, really enjoyed. I'm really happy that he sounds like Indy, because yeah, if he sounded different, it'd be like,
Yeah, and then I think Tony Todd is the bad guy, right? Is like he voices
I think so, yeah,
Lucas or Locus? Yeah.
yeah.
I'm like, I think that's intriguing, and I like Tony Todd's voice. You know, I'm not like a
Mhm.
horror person as we talked about, so I don't have any nostalgia from him as Candyman, but I like him in other roles he's been in, and I liked him in Venom, and when he portrayed Venom
Yeah.
this last Spider-Man movie. So I think it's gonna be interesting going to play this on Game Pass, but I've watched Indiana Jones when I was young, and
Mhm.
so like. I just rewatched the first two movies this year, and it's been like a 20-year gap between what
Yeah.
I had seen originally and, rewatching them now. So it feels like a franchise that does have a lot of heart and soul and happiness and adventure
Yes.
there, but it also
Yes.
feels like there's a lot of things that feel a little bit campy and a little bit
Yes.
like,
Yes.
yeah.
So Indiana Jones fun facts for you here.
Uh,
So Raiders of the Lost Ark was a passion project of George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. And
okay.
they used to watch these like Sunday morning shows that were like that. They were super campy. It was a hero guy saving some poor heroine and beating up the bad guy and saving the day, and you were supposed to tune in next week to watch the next episode. And they decided after I can't remember if it was after or before Empire. They were like, yeah, we really want to do this movie. This movie sounds like a lot of fun. We really want to do this. So they shot Raiders, and they were like, okay, this movie's going to make no money, but we got to do it. We got to do the one movie that we really wanted to do. They came in at like $3 million over budget. The studio was super pissed. They were like, this is terrible, whatever. Raiders of the Lost Ark blows up to be one of the biggest movies ever. And then the studio's like, all right, well, go make more. And they were like, yes. So, and that's like, Indiana Jones is filled with flaws across the board. It is filled with general stereotyping. It is with questionable content and morals. Like, everybody likes to talk about Indiana Jones being the good guy, but like, if you go back and watch Temple of Doom, he just straight up punches a lady in the beginning of that movie.
He really
and
does.
it cracks me up every time I see it, because I'm like, this poor woman's just running through and he just clocks her. But like, I love those movies because they are campy. They're ridiculous. They're just stupid amounts of fun. You just turn your brain off and watch a beautiful Harrison Ford run across the screen and do things. And I'm like, this is exactly what I want. And I think the aesthetic of it, the sets that they shoot on, the absurdity of it all is what makes it so great. So yeah, I completely agree.
So, with you not having a modern Xbox, are you going to go out and get an Xbox for this game, or you feel like immediately I'm just going to play this on my PC? Are you
Yeah,
like now?
PC.
I was about to say they added like Game Pass to like TVs now, so I'm like
Yeah.
you could play it on Fire TV and all the other things. I'm like,
No, I'll be committing true Xbox blasphemy and playing it probably on a PlayStation 5 controller on my PC.
I like that. You want to feel the dual sense, actually. When I pull the trigger or whip somebody with Indiana Jones, I want to feel the dual sense.
I know, totally off tangent, but like, I
Mhm.
bought my PlayStation 5 as a place, like I had a PlayStation 4, I had the regular old DualSense controller, and then they make you play that intro game to PlayStation. And the adaptive triggers, I sat there for like an
Amazing.
hour going, oh, so yeah, it's amazing.
You talking about the Astrobot game?
The Astrobot game
Astrobot
is
game,
so
yeah.
much fun. Yeah.
Are you gonna play the Astrobot game this year? Like Astrobot's coming out with. Okay, so
They're making
I'm
another one?
breaking the news for you. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
after we get done recording, go watch. So Astrobot, the actual game. So like they had one that was previous called Astrobot Rescue Mission. It was VR. No one cares about it. It's VR.
Yeah.
We consider that it's dead to us at that point.
Yeah.
So like they had that one, and then they came out with like the tech demo that you basically saw, which is a full-fledged game, but it feels like a tech demo. It came with everyone's PS5. It was basically their Wii Sports, and now they're coming out with a dedicated, actual, live, fleshed out, big Astrobot game, and it's coming out this year. I believe the release date was. Let me pull that up to make sure, because I'm like I very much would misquote that, but like the release date's this fall. Well, let me see.
Because I'm gonna have to add that to the list. Astrobot's great.
Love it, absolutely love it. So, Astrobot was for me like I loved it because it felt like a love letter to PlayStation. It's like they had all these like PlayStation Easter eggs in it and such like that. It was one of the first games I platinumed as a PlayStation owner. By the way. Yeah.
All right.
But, yeah, I'm like, let's see. They have it here pre-order. Looks like it. Okay. Right. September 6th. September 6th. It's a full-fledged game. The trailer looks amazing. It looks like almost like Mario, 3D Mario, but very PlayStation-ish. It's like,
love it.
Oh yeah, so I'm like I'm there for like swimwear day one. So I'm excited for that one. But I told you I had two questions. My last question is, where can the good people find you, Alec? Because it's been a episode, man. I've been having fun with you. We can talk all night, but I know you have a hankering to eat something and go play Destiny.
Yeah,
I called it to a T, didn't I?
Well, I'm like, so that's part of the new things with the new job because I have to go on inspections. I'm like doing the mental math. I'm like, okay, how much time do I actually have to play Destiny before I have to go to bed and then actually be responsible? Yeah, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter. Both are basically dead at the moment. They're just haven't had a whole lot to share just because, obviously job has been keeping me pretty busy. But
that's about to change pretty soon.
That's about to change pretty soon. My brother and I are still working on that dungeon crawler, and we are really, really pushing hard to try to get something, at least some sort of demo out this year.
What?
So I'm hoping that next time we talk, I have more information, but we are still working out the details. All I can say so far is that we are thinking really large scale dungeon crawler. So we're both really. I got into dungeon crawlers with Mighty Doom and was like, wow, this is a lot of fun. And he is a huge Path of Exile guy, which is just a full-fledged dungeon crawler as well. So we're like, well, what happens if we stick 1,000 enemies in a dungeon?
What? What?
Yeah. So, and we're like, okay, and then what if we give us like crazy space magic? I think we might have something here. So we're still working on it, still tooling it, still working through it, but we should have something we hope that is playable this year.
Okay, that's exciting. That's exciting. I like that. I like that. You got to tease them like that. I like the way you just put little breadcrumbs out there, so that you got to give the people what they want.
Yeah. I mean, because the other thing too, I mean, with how everything happened last year, we definitely want folks to know that we're not done.
No, absolutely not.
We lost a business partner, and that happens, and that's okay. I'm happy that he's moved on and found other fulfillment and other things, but like we still want to make games, and we still want to make games that we want to play. So we're really, really excited to hopefully share something with you all soon.
All right, everyone, go check out the links to the description for all of Alec's information. It will be there. But I want to thank you all for listening, and thank you all so much for all the support. Again, means absolute world. This is the single player experience. We talk about all the great things of video games on the single player side, also on the heartfelt emotion side, where we dive into people's stories and what video game means to them. Before we go, though, I want to give a special shout out to this man right here, the captain of this ship this episode. He's been absolutely amazing. This guy, if you didn't hear it in the intro, he is a video game developer. He's a PC gaming savant. He's a website developer. He's equipped with just a single pistol and a stern willpower, and he defeated the Covenant, the Flood, and the Monitor to save the human race. He saved the land of Tamriel from a demon invasion. This guy right here, he's a monster on the tennis court. I have that on good authority. He's a Star Trek aficionado. He is the Destiny Conqueror himself. This was Alec Taub. Alec, thank you so much for doing this episode.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always such a pleasure.
Thank y'all so much for listening. Until next time, stay safe, stay gaming, and enjoy that single player experience. Peace out, y'all.
What's up? It's your boy Sebastian. I want to send you a special thank you whether you watch this podcast episode via YouTube or whether you listen to it throughout all the podcast platforms. By the way, it's available on all your favorite podcast platforms if you didn't already know. Anyways, if you like what you heard, go ahead and hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe so that you stay tuned and locked in to all things within the Single Player Experience podcast. Anyways, until next time, stay safe, stay gaming, and enjoy that single player experience. Bye, everybody.